Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield now to the great congressman from the state of Minnesota, an ex-Marine. 5 minutes, John Klein.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I'll overlook the ex-Marine slight. Never an ex-Marine, always a Marine. But it is a tremendous honor for me today to even be on the same floor as this great American here. We heard earlier today the hardship of some of our servicemen and women missing the holiday with their families. And I know in my 25 years in the Marines I missed a number of those, but there's nobody who has missed more holidays with his family than this great American next to me. You know, we've heard a lot of speeches during this so-called debate. I'm not sure how much real debate there is, but certainly a lot of speeches. Some of them have been very eloquent. I think of Mr. McHugh the other night giving one of the best speeches I've ever heard on the floor of this House. Some of them have been partisan, some of them have been shrill, some persuasive, some not. We've heard a number of opinions expressed, and it reminds me of the other day, a week or so ago, we had a hearing in the Armed Services Committee, and we had 3 experts, PhDs, all of them, experts in the field of international relations and military operations, one of them the former Secretary of Defense under President Clinton. And it turns out that at the end of the hearing, each of the 3 of them had a different idea about what we ought to do. None of them supported what the President had been doing. One of them sort of supported what the President was doing, but each of them had a different idea. They had an opinion, arguably an informed opinion, but an opinion nevertheless. And on this floor, we've heard more opinions. We've heard people say, I don't agree with this. I think this is a bad idea. Or I think this is a good idea. We've heard some people say, I have a better idea. Or I'm a member of a caucus who has a better idea. Or I've proposed this, or I think that. And it kind of reminds me why it's a very bad idea to conduct a war by committee. But I fully acknowledge that people are allowed to have opinions, and certainly every member of this body can have an opinion. I remember the principal author of this resolution before us, the distinguished chairman of the Armed Services Committee, stood up on the other side of the aisle here on the first day of this debate, and he said, everybody is entitled to their own opinions, but not to their own facts. And so I would just like to take a little bit of my remaining time here to talk about some of the claims and some of the facts that have been brought forward in this debate. One of the proponents said, quote, the new plan, quote, ignores the recommendations of the military commanders on the ground. How many times have we heard that in these 2 days? Well, what's the truth? General Petraeus, the new commander of the multinational force in Iraq, confirmed by the Senate with no dissenting votes, said, quote, if we are to carry out the multinational force Iraq mission in accordance with the new strategy, the additional forces that have been directed to move to Iraq will be essential. He said that last month. General Odierno, the new U.S. commander, Corps commander, says, quote, this is about Iraqis taking charge of their own security. In order for them to do that, we have to buy them time to continue to train and for the government to become more legitimate to the eyes of the Iraqi people. They are doing that by moving forward. By bringing more troops in, it provides us the opportunity to work with them to provide more time and defeat this threat, which is both al-Qaeda threat as well as sectarian violence. Even General Casey last month said he thought we needed more troops. Another claim has been by one of our colleagues, quote, Prime Minister al-Maliki has indicated in virtually every way he can that he too opposes the surge. And yet, on January 13, Prime Minister Maliki said, quote, the strategic plan announced by U.S. President George W. Bush represents the common vision and mutual understanding between the Iraqi government and the U.S. administration. I have more examples here, but one that we've heard over and over and over again in various forms was stated by one of our colleagues yesterday saying, quote, our president again is ignoring members of the bipartisan Iraq study group who oppose this escalation. This is the book. I commend it to every American. I'd like to quote now from my dear, dear longtime friend and hunting partner, the former Secretary of State, James A. Baker III, who said, on January 30th of this year, quote, "This is the language and all of the language of the report with respect to a surge. Quote, we could, however, support a short-term redeployment or surge of American combat forces to stabilize Baghdad or to speed up the training and equipping mission if the U.S. commander in Iraq determines that such steps would be effective. The only two conditions are short-term and commander in Iraq determines it will be effective. Both of these conditions have been met," said Secretary Baker. 30 seconds.
Yield him 30 seconds.
I thank the
Recognized for
gentleman.
30 seconds.
I thank the gentleman for continuing to yield. There have been many claims of fact, which I have some counter-arguments with. I would just say to all of my colleagues that I would concur with Chairman Skelton that we are entitled to our own opinion. We can certainly express it, but we are not, in fact, entitled to our own facts. So let's stick to the facts. I yield back.